Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, let's watch. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. As I always say, everything that I'm saying in reaction to these shows is completely speculative, based on very little information. Let's watch.
I know it was so good to be true. And I was wondering why he's 52 and he's by himself. And I do believe he's still in love with his ex, because I sent him nudes and he said, like, oh, perfect. I'm gonna make my ex-girlfriend be jealous.
Yeah, I mean, it's a viable contention that at the very least he's still wrapped up in that relationship with his former partner. And again, the former partner might be a stretch in that it might be more accurate to say a business arrangement person that he paid for companionship and possibly sex. I don't know. I think that was the situation. But yeah, I mean, so she's like, how was I so wrong about him? And I think that if I were there, I would offer a number of possibilities. One is that he's a horrible, horrible human being with mounds of data that support a lack of concern about other people, lack of empathy, callous behavior, harmful, mean behavior towards other people, lack of consideration, no remorse, that kind of thing. So that's one hypothesis, and there's some data for that. I would also offer the hypothesis that he does love her and Jasmine and does want to be with her and cares about her and does have the capacity for empathy. And he's a massively insecure individual who still has some dark places of his personality that are childish and immature, that lack the moral refinement of an adult. We can have that. And that's something that I feel like people don't really comprehend in the contemporary discourse of empathy and psychopathy and narcissism on the internet, is that if someone exhibits a bad behavior that exhibits lack of empathy, that means they generally lack empathy, which is usually not the case. All of us have committed acts that could be labeled as lacking empathy. All of us have lacked remorse when we should have had remorse. All of us have been mean to other people on purpose, knowing that we would hurt them. If you've ever said something to a partner in the midst of a fight that was hurtful, like, you never listen to me, you are always late, you are an irresponsible person, you lack empathy, you're gaslighting me. These are purposeful statements that are trying to hurt someone's feelings. You're trying to put someone down. You're trying to insult them. You're trying to, win the fight. You're trying to put them in their place or whatever it is. Now, those examples are pretty common, but people from the other side of that or from the outside will label that behavior as lacking empathy. You must be a narcissist. You must be psychopathic, sociopathic, whatever. So we all do that, and it's possible, I don't know, we might not ever know, and Jasmine could certainly walk away from the relationship at this point. I don't think a lot of people would blame her. But one hypothesis is that Gino, when she felt he was being compassionate and caring towards her, he was, and he does have a general capacity for remorse and empathy and care. But there's a part of him that is easily triggered to regress to that of a younger person who doesn't have the capacity for considering other people's needs and was still insulted and hurt about his previous relationship, whatever sort of arrangement he had with that previous woman, and just wanted to rub her face in it and show, like, look what you missed out on and eat your heart out, that kind of thing. And he was so wrapped up in his insecurity and pain that he just couldn't see his way through that situation without harming others along the way. And now that he's called out on it, he is so ashamed that he doesn't know what to say. He's not used to being able to navigate those situations, and as Jasmine, I don't think I showed it, but as Jasmine was saying, it's not only that he did it, it's his reaction afterwards. Because, if he would have said something like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I did it. Well, I guess best case scenario, he comes to her prior to her finding out. and says, "I just want to tell you something. I'm so sorry. I have this part of my personality, or something wrong with me in a certain way, and I did this thing. It's so wrong, and the mindset I was in was this. It's not an excuse, something like that." But that's not what he said. What he said was, "Well, I was just trying to show you off," as if that somehow addresses the issue. And he wasn't very talkative. He's mainly defending himself. If to my memory, he was saying that he made a mistake, but it certainly wasn't commensurate with the situation. So, could Jasmine and Gino work out as a couple? Yeah. I know a lot of viewers will say that Gino is this toxic, gaslighting, narcissistic, horrible person, but I don't know that. There's not a lot of evidence of that, honestly. I've treated people like that, and I don't see major signs. I can't know that he doesn't have it. I can't know that Jasmine doesn't have psychopathy or something based on the show, but I've treated people who have had worse problems than this, who have managed to see their way through over years of exploration and growth. So can they work out? Yeah. Would it be a incredibly imprudent decision for Jasmine to go back with him? Not in my opinion. It could be in yours. Would it be imprudent for her to leave him behind and find someone else? Also, not in my opinion. I'm guessing y'all don't agree with that one.
But that's not fair because it was for him.
And I don't want to downplay what he did. I don't want that to come across that way. I'm not saying that what he did wasn't a big deal. It was a humongous deal. It is, I don't know, and I think some people have even commented on this, that it could be illegal. This is a crime. It's a sexual assault. It's awful. So, yeah, it's a high violation. But as I said, it happens sometimes in relationships. And I don't know where we would put it on the scale, but I've treated couples who had ongoing infidelity with another person for years, and they were upset, and it was ugly for a number of months, maybe years, but they recover because they wanted to. I'm not saying everyone's supposed to do that, but I'm just saying, like, relationships get messy sometimes, and people have problems. And that doesn't mean you have to deal with them if you're Jasmine, but it doesn't mean that you're an idiot if you try to make things work, particularly, if you have feelings for someone. Now, I will say that the people that I treated generally, they had kids, they had a house together, they had a life together, and so there was something to fight for. For Jasmine, she might be like, our relationship is so new and so kind of flimsy to begin with, and there were so many other problems I had with him that, why would I fight for this?
He pretended to be sweet, a good person, hardworking. I really fell in love with a ghost. He doesn't exist. It's just my imagination.
And I want to acknowledge the pain that she's going through. It would be very painful and very disorienting. So, yeah, that's all understandable, and I feel bad for her.
The real Gino, I got to know him today. I learned it the hard way.
And it's a very healthy expression of a understandable feeling. She's crying. She's saying the things that I think is totally balanced and appropriate to the situation. So she's showing a lot of maturity and health in this expression.
That was way stupid. It's a bad feeling. Because Jasmine, I really wanted to be with Jasmine the rest of my life, and she was the one for me.
Okay, so he says that was really stupid. I thought she was the one for me, so he's starting to feel the loss. I think we can maybe see a lot of his, other aspects of his personality as he goes through this. So let's see what happens here.
And so, but this has completely messed that up. Should have never happened. I can't defend what I did, but I wish Jasmine could understand that I would never deliberately hurt her.
Okay. Yeah, those are the first kind of thoughts that people have. Usually you have many more thoughts. So those aren't bad thoughts. He's not blaming her. I mean, I'm just trying to think of like what would make it worse and what would indicate darker sides to his personality that I don't know exist. But if he were to blame her, if he were to be like, well, moving on in life as if it just didn't matter. So, he seems to be upset about it. He's not blaming her. I think he's, at least so far, his reaction is, you don't understand, I didn't mean to hurt you. And it's like, okay, maybe you could convince her of that, but why did you do it? Like, are you oblivious? Because that's been my thing. I think I remember, it's funny, it's just 2 weeks ago that we saw the show, but it just seems like ages ago. But I remember thinking, is he oblivious? Does he lack empathy? Was he desperate to show his past, relationship that he had moved on and he's extremely immature? Does he have because if we saw a 14-year-old do something like this, of course it would look different because it's not like a lot of 14-year-olds have, at least I hope so, naked pictures of their partners on their phones. Do they have that? I hope not. Isn't that illegal, right? That's illegal. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm 99% sure that's illegal. Anyway, so we would, a 14, just a made up scenario. And whenever I talk about teenagers, I don't want to paint teenagers as like these psychopathic, horrible human beings, and not all 14-year-olds, so I'm not saying anything about that. But it wouldn't be surprising if I had a client who was 14 who was broken up with and then met someone else and then was either subtly or not so subtly trying to signal to their former partner that broke up with them, look who I have right now. Look at this, eat your heart out. Or spreading rumors, maybe, like, oh, he was this or she was that. It wouldn't be great. And again, not all 14-year-olds would do this, but I wouldn't be surprised, because 14-year-olds, generally speaking, don't have the emotional regulation. They don't have the experience. They can have moods that swing forwards and backwards. They can lack good guidance, and they might do something like that. So if we think of it that way, he's exhibiting that kind of decision-making pattern or skill. And it doesn't excuse it, but it just makes me wonder if he has that regressive part of himself.
Because I love Jasmine more than I ever thought I could love a woman. I know that if I lose Jasmine like this, I would never find love like this again. Okay, so this is all good start. Hopefully he can, but I doubt he can because he hasn't thus far, and the fact that he did it indicates that he doesn't really have a grasp on what's going on with him and his emotions and his impulses, a self-reflection skill. So in order to really apologize and learn from this experience, he'd have to really self-reflect, and we just haven't seen that evidence yet.
You did bad to me, you'll pay for it. You say nuts to your ex of me that I trust on you.
What? Say what now?
What you're gonna do, because I'm gonna sue you.
What nudes?
Yeah, legal action would be totally justified. I think that some prosecutors might even take her up on it. I don't know. So she's going to try to punish him for what he did or get some kind of satisfaction of justice. Yeah, makes total sense.
The notes you sent to her.
Those weren't nudes.
I'm showing on my.
Yeah, your breasts are showing. That's correct, but they're not nudes.
Yikes. I mean, it just keep digging your grave there, Gino. So I'm guessing what he means is that she has, bottoms on, if you will, panties, pants, something, or it doesn't show below the waist or whatever. Anyway, point is that he's contending they're not technically nudes because of, something not being revealed. That's ridiculous. I mean, even if you had some sort of strict definition of that you understand what she's saying, right? Why would you play a game at this point?
So take off your hat. Those are nudes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't recommend people putting hands on. I get it, but I don't recommend that. If I were her, I don't think I showed you, but her friend was essentially recommending that she not take any kind of harsh or rash action. And yeah, but I get it.
Well, if you can't talk peacefully, then you can.
Peacefully. Why the then you send her my nudes?
So I get it. You want to have a peaceful conversation, but how about you demonstrate that you have ample space right now to be apologetic, to explain what happened, to express compassion and remorse. And maybe she would take you up on that to lower her voice. But if you're just going to sit there and say they're not nudes, even though she is naked, at least from the waist up, if that's all you're going to say, then she has justification to sue him.
That was part of my privacy. How can you do that? How?
Yeah, I get it. I wouldn't recommend that she stay there because this could get more violent. This could also cause some problems for her in terms of, well, is it? Maybe not. I mean, she's angry. She's sad. Maybe this will help her in the future if they do break up, which I can never know. It always seems like, well, this must be the end, and then these couples get back together, which I'm not judging. It just happens. But anyway, so if she does move on, maybe this will make her feel better. Like, well, I really let him have it that one time, and I got it off my chest. So, yeah, I get it, totally.
I made a mistake to send the pictures, but I can't take it back.
Yikes. I mean, I think mistakes are mistakes, but the way we react to us being called out on our mistakes really shows who we are. And I made a mistake, but I can't take it back. It wasn't a mistake. You purposely sent the photos. You just didn't think you'd get caught. So it wasn't a mistake. That's not the word. A mistake is I accidentally filled out the test form with a B instead of an A. I made a mistake. It's a typo. That's a mistake. What you did was on purpose. So I think he's revealing his, at least a sizable part of his personality at this point.
You know how I feel. You want to know how I feel? You trash. Don't be told, man. Speak. Speak. Have the balls to say something.
Yeah, so let's see what he says. I have extremely low confidence that he will say something, and if he does, it's not going to be satisfactory to any of us, I think. But we'll see.
What do you want me to talk about?
Why did you do it?
I told you why.
Why?
To rub it into her chicken sheet.
What? Is that what I mean to you? A piece of meat?
No, that's not. Has nothing to do.
Do you have interest on her?
No.
You were obsessed with her.
Wrong.
I think this is good that they're having the conversation for her sake mainly, so that she can get some clarity around this. And often when we break up with people, it's a good idea, particularly for the person that's hurt, well, maybe for both, to have these kinds of conversations, because I think it helps sometimes to have an accurate idea of what was going through other people's minds, rather than what we will make up as what was going through people's minds. So he's saying that it was to rub it in, which I believe. I can't know that for sure, but that seems like a very high likelihood of that's why he was doing it. She's saying, you're obsessed with her, and he's saying no. Now, he could easily follow that up with, I could see how you would say that. I wasn't in love with her. I was more hurt and angry, but I didn't want to get back together with her, but I was hurt and angry. And, she's kind of like an enemy to me. And I was, or maybe more accurately, given what people have emailed me, I can't remember, people emailed me something, so who knows if it's just rumor, but I think more likely is that he still had some feelings for her, but was never really intending on getting back together with her. Plus, it was a business relationship, was it not? Anyway, so the point is he could give more detail here, other than no, I was, you're wrong about that. I wasn't obsessed with her. Like, he should be disclosing more information here, but he hasn't before, so I don't think he's going to now. In fact, so one hypothesis is right now he actually thinks she's stupid and ridiculous and over-emotional and illogical. And he feels like, look at this ridiculous human being. I didn't do anything wrong. She's overreacting just like she always does. I think there's a pretty good chance that he's in that space. There's another chance that he feels extremely ashamed of himself and is just trying to survive this moment. One thing that people will do when they're watching shows like this is that if you don't see any direct evidence of shame, then you think they don't have shame. But the more shame we feel, the more likely we are to not exhibit shame. We might not even want to acknowledge it to ourselves. It's similar to, and I found this out kind of the hard way, that I would be treating a teenager. I'd have a client who was a teen, and they would come across as so tough and so resilient and so uncaring about what other people thought of them. And they didn't need anybody. They were totally fine on their own. And at first I'm like, well, that's not possible. But eventually they would sometimes get me to believe that. And then months, years down the line, it would come to be realized by me that, oh, no, that's just, of course not. Of course they have a vulnerable, soft inside that they are covering up with all this toughness. So, yeah, I'm not saying he's exhibiting toughness, but he's exhibiting lack of shame, like he doesn't care. So is it that he truly doesn't care and doesn't have the capacity to care, or is choosing not to care? Or is it that he's deeply ashamed and has a hard time feeling it because he feels so much of it? Let me know what you think in the comments, which one.
So what?
I broke up with her, don't forget.
I'm publishing your... You want me to do that? You tiny...
So I don't recommend that she does this. I mean, that would be stooping to his level. Plus, publishing is different than sending it to one person. Plus, it's also potentially a crime. Remember that. You could be sued. It could take away your ability to sue him if you also do it. So I hope she does. I hope she's just saying this as a gesture.
I don't agree with that. If you want to send my to one of your exes, go ahead.
No, there is nothing to brag about. My pictures were hot. You're depressing.
Whoopee.
You're not a man. I don't want to see you anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting to see his reaction. So she's trying to hurt his feelings, and he has his defense against that. It still doesn't mean that he doesn't have. It still could he still could have shame on the inside. He still could be extremely ashamed of himself, so much so that he can't admit it to anyone. It doesn't look like that. I'll just put it that way.
That's your choice.
My choice.
Yeah.
You were my choice. I made a mistake.
Don't. Guys.
I'm gonna kill this all damn the president.
Stop.
So good that the producer stepped in, and it looked like maybe she was just trying to grab his hat, but she seemed pretty unglued, like maybe it would get a different kind of a violence, but it kind of looked like she was just trying to knock his hat off his head. I don't know though, but let's, hopefully she can separate and heal and move on and know that, she didn't do anything wrong.
How you dare I trusted on you?
Stop. You need to go.
I trusted on you.
Jasmine, habla conmigo.
He is a loser. Stupid liar.
And I've been hypothesizing that she has relational traumas along these lines, and it happened seemingly again, at least similar to her past traumas, which will give her more reactivity in the future, or more opportunities for reactivity and triggering in the future, which is, a real tragedy for her. All right, well, I want to thank all of you who have liked any of my videos or subscribed. It is super cool of you. I look at that frequently as a way of checking in to make sure that I'm on the right track. So if you like what I'm doing, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I suppose, and let me know how things are going. And just remember that my self-esteem is fragile. Literally, it really is. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.